if you're so good at customer service that, like you said, you just take care of things for people, you make issues go away, and you reduce friction in people's business, that is how you make sure that you're the person they call and they're not even thinking about calling anyone else.
As a whole, this industry is still a relationship-driven business. When we're looking for salespeople or sales positions to fill, really looking for somebody who's a self-starter, hungry to prove themselves, ambitious.
So if you're in this industry and you're like, I don't think Instagram or any of these other things are going to matter, you better be thinking about it, because this Google world is going to change. And I believe that Google is going to be like the Yellow Pages in a few years. I think it'll be relatively obsolete or totally different than it is today. Welcome to the Grit Blueprint Podcast, the show for bold builders, brand leaders, and legacy makers in the construction and building industry. I'm your host, Stephanie Couch, and I've been in this industry my entire life. Whether we're breaking down what's working in sales and marketing, new advances in AI and automation, or interviewing top industry leaders, you're going to get real-world strategies to grow your business, build your brand, and lead your team. Let's get to work. Welcome to the Grit Blueprint Podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Couch. Today, I have a guest who has been in the door and window industry for over 25 years, and I'm excited to talk to him about all the things that he's learned over his career and also the things that he sees that are happening in the industry right now, because there's a lot going on. Nick, welcome to the show. Nick Pesl with Kolbe Window and Door. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Well, I know you have a long history, so I wanted you to start by just telling me a little bit about how you got into the business, what you've done throughout your career, and what you're doing today.
Sure. So I started at Kolbe back in the summer of 2000, working on the shop floor. I did that for a few years and ultimately moved into customer support. And from there, I actually took a territory manager position down in the Chicago market for a bit over 6 years. I transferred back to corporate in early 2012, where I joined the marketing team. I
Okay.
worked with our marketing team for about 10 years. Then I moved over into our displays department, where we kind of construct and build all of our dealer and distributor showroom displays and also led all of our trade show exhibits.
Wow, you've done basically everything, or it sounds like a lot of what happens in the business. You have experience there. What's kept you in the game? What's kept you with Kolbe for so long? And also, what's your favorite job you've ever had at Kolbe? I'm curious.
One of my favorite jobs was my past position as the displays manager.
Mm.
One of the things that I liked about that, it was a satellite facility, and it's a small manufacturing group. And as I mentioned earlier, that's where we built all of our dealer and distributor showroom displays, but also all of our trade show exhibits. And it was a chance to kind of create a culture of our own. So that was one of the things that I really liked the most, was leading that group, kind of changing the culture and in instilling the values that I find that are true and dear to me. So it was a good group of folks. But to answer your first question, what was my favorite position? I would have to say the position I'm in now. So I'm now a regional sales manager that oversees all of the Midwest. I've been heavily involved in product throughout my tenure at Kolbe. So for me, it's an easy position for me.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that it's not challenging, obviously at times, but I think because I'm so product heavy, it comes fairly easy for me, and I
Yeah.
enjoy seeing the sales side of things.
Once you get into the products, because I consider myself a pretty big door and window nerd, I've just been in it so long. And then when I went to my corporate job, I got to learn the actual technical part of it. I'd been selling windows and doors a long time, but I'd never been in a fabrication door manufacturing facility. And you're a product geek, self-professed. And
Mhm.
I want to know, what is one thing that you think people maybe miss about or don't think about as much about windows and doors that you think is really critical for people to get right?
Well, the one thing that I see just being in sales is typically on a new construction home project, the first thing that gets, slashed when it comes to trying to stay under budget is the windows and doors.
Mm.
It drives me bananas, but the thing that I want people to know most about that situation is, anytime you have a hole in a building envelope, um, it's important to get it right.
Yeah.
you know so many times you see budgets getting cut because they want granite countertops or this and that, and in reality, in my opinion, those windows are far more important than any other item in the home, really.
They're also
Just
a lot bigger pain in the tail to replace later. Like I know no one wants to really think about replacing something when you're building a new home because you're like, this is going to be here forever. But trends change, surfaces, what's in style, what's the latest and greatest change, and the same thing with windows and doors. But when you start to rip out the side of your home when you're trying to live in it, that's a lot bigger issue than changing a countertop where maybe you can't cook for a week, or maybe even they do it the same day and it's done. So I definitely think that's interesting. Zonda has some data that I just saw recently about what are the biggest upgrades and what are people upgrading. And it is true that windows and doors are one of the lowest things on the list. But upgrading your front door is actually one of the, I think it's the second most valuable return on investment for remodels. So it's kind of interesting that people aren't thinking about that. But then when they're going back and doing it in remodels, they're getting a lot of cash back out of that when they are upgrading. So maybe people are missing that, like you said, and they should be thinking about it. How do you think we get people to reframe that? Is that done at the manufacturer level? Is it done at the dealer, the pro that's in the home selling these things? How do we do that where homeowners are like, this is what I want to spend my extra money on?
I think it's education all the way around, whether it's, from the marketing teams on the manufacturer side or at the dealer distributor level. Even myself, if I'm meeting with our channel partners, I use the term channel partner just really to refer to dealers and distributors. But whether I'm speaking with them or I'm speaking with a builder, an architect, or even at times a homeowner, I try to point out the importance of energy efficiency, and your windows and doors are really going to assist with that from a whole envelope standpoint the most of pretty much anything else other than the wall insulation itself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of trends out there. Just talking a little more about product. What's one product that Colby's come out with or that you guys are working on that you love that you think people should know about?
So I would share a couple things. So we're currently in development. We partnered with a company called Luxwall Glass out of Michigan, and we are going to be rolling out vacuum insulated glass in
Hmm.
some of our products here um, in July. I actually believe it will outperform triple pane glass and take a lot of weight out of the product. So
Awesome.
it'll provide a much more energy efficient option in terms of glass in general.
Gotcha. Okay, that's really cool.
A second item I'd like to point out is we just unveiled at the IBS show, and I think I actually showed it to you while you were
Yeah.
out there, our Vislux WD line Strata door. It's a door system that we can do 1 through 4 panels wide, and each panel can be up to 10 feet wide and 12 feet tall.
Yeah, it was
So
impressive. And that's the one that pushes with just very little pressure, right? Yeah.
exactly. So that's the newest product that we released, and it's a really nice operating product, but it seals very well too. So
Yeah, nobody wants to have a workout when they try to open their back door to go out and go out and enjoy the sunshine in the morning. You don't want to have to try to push a huge door where you can't open it. These things just keep getting larger. Also, I think that's one thing that really struck me at IBS this year is everyone is pushing the envelope from innovation, all these, energy efficiency standpoints, but people want things that are wow factors, especially on high end homes. I live in North Georgia. We have a lot of lakefront homes here that are very expensive. People want a 16-foot door that's super tall that they can open and it feels open to the atmosphere, but also is easy to live in. So I think that's great that you guys are doing all of those products that are making that happen for people.
Yeah, that product does operate very well. It also seals very well, so the testing performance on it is really great. But you're right. When you get to those large door panels, it's paramount that they're able to be operated easily because you start getting into 12-foot tall panels, 10 feet wide. That's a lot of weight on a single door panel.
Yeah, I always cringe when I think about delivering them and also installing them. So I'm glad I'm not the one that has to figure that part out. But I'll just
Sure.
sell it, and or somebody like me will sell it, and that they can deal with that on the job site. I know there's a lot of people that know how to do it, so they're very good at it. It's probably just another day for them. Well, speaking of sales, you lead a sales team, and you
Mhm.
have territory managers, and you oversee a really large, diverse region.
Mhm.
I hear a lot from my clients and just generally people in the industry about how sales has changed. I think during the pandemic, we all sort of got a little bit maybe lazy or became more order takers. How do you inspire a sales team and even possibly the next generation of people that are going to be coming into sales to really be high performing and to go out and crush it in your market?
That's a tough question to answer. You know, I would say as a whole, this industry is still a relationship driven business.
Mhm.
Obviously COVID put some restraints on us and we had to do some things remote and obviously we weren't having in-person visits and stuff like that. But um, I truly do believe it's still a relationship focused business. And, when we're looking for salespeople or sales positions to fill, really looking for somebody who's, a self-starter, hungry to prove themselves, ambitious. The product can be taught, right?
Mhm.
We have a pretty diverse product, but it can be taught. A lot of guidance, a lot of mentoring, obviously great communication skills, social aptitude, stuff like that. But most importantly, too, willing to travel because in most cases there's quite a bit of travel involved.
Yeah.
And you're spending the bulk of your time calling on existing channel partners and or builders and architects, whether they're familiar with your product or not. Obviously we want to target those that aren't familiar so we can get in front of them and educate them on what our brand has to offer.
People think that the travel is not to undervalue, people that don't travel, but people think it's like, oh, you get to travel all the time. They say that to me a lot. I'm like, yeah, and then they say, well, it must be so much fun. I'm like, sure. I order Uber Eats after 12 hours of meetings while I'm in my hotel room catching up on the emails I didn't read during the workday, or speaking or whatever. It's not like you're out have it lapping it up at the pool drinking daiquiris. I mean, maybe somebody, if there is a job like that, somebody please hit me up because I'm interested. But it is fun to get to see different things, and I do love going places to meet customers. That's one of my favorite parts of this industry. But travel can be tough, and you really are away from who you love at home, and your routine gets disrupted. So it does take a special person to do that, and especially for a long period of time. It's different if it's once or twice a year at trade shows, but if you're doing it every week, you got to have a certain type of person that wants to live that lifestyle. So I think that's a great point to call out with the typical type of sales. I'm curious, you've worked in all of these areas. What is technology doing in your business today, and how do you guys think about things like automations and innovations and AI? Is that something you guys are talking about using or thinking about using in your business especially with your sales teams?
Absolutely. We think about all of those things. So from an automation standpoint, we have incorporated automation into some of our products, but from a manufacturing standpoint, we're still very proud of the fact that very little in our manufacturing facility is automated.
Sure.
A lot of our team members back home do a great job. We really view our team members as craftspeople. So
Hmm.
that's one thing we pride ourselves on as a company. As it pertains to AI, I think there's going to be some interesting potential with AI, whether it's chat bots from a customer service standpoint or helping us design products in terms of material and performance for specific regions of the United States.
Hmm.
I think as AI is just starting to really get going, it's going to open the doors for a lot of potential opportunities for manufacturers.
Yeah, I believe the next 18 to 24 months with AI in our industry is going to be kind of an arbitrage moment where we see things that we probably never thought we were going to see. One thing that's interesting is, people are like, oh, yeah, but the internet took so long for people to adopt in our industry. And that is true. But
Mhm.
you also think about what it took to get on the internet if you didn't have it already. You had to find a computer, it was expensive to get a computer. If you had a big architecture of people that needed it in your business, you had to have multiple, so it's maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars. You have to get internet, and it may be super slow. All those things are already here in our business. What do you have to do to start using AI? Go to a website. I mean, that's it. You type in openai.com and it comes up, and you can start using ChatGPT to do things immediately. Now, some of these other programs that are integrated into your business, they have AI. Almost every single program I have now somehow has integrated already AI. And I do believe that in the next 18 to 24 months, people are going to start using this and thinking, okay, here's a few small things I can integrate into my business. So where do I see AI going? I don't know exactly how people will adopt it, but I think from a sales and marketing perspective, like you said, the chatbots is one way. It's not about replacing humans, though. Like, your sales team shouldn't be worried, in my opinion, that they're going to lose their jobs because of AI. But what they might be able to do is pull up a sheet with data on it that would have taken them 6 hours to put together in their hotel room, and it took them 6 minutes to run the algorithm on AI and get that data to say, okay, I'm going to talk to Sally today, and I need to talk to her about these three products because this is the thing in her market that could do the best, that people are asking for, that solve the problems the most. So that's how I think it's going to help the people that use it get better. And I do think people are really scared of it. A lot of people are very dystopian about it, but it's here. So I do believe the people who choose now to start to use it will be the ones that succeed in the next 2 years.
I
And
think it's exciting because
yeah.
I think you can really get a lot of market intelligence out of something like AI.
Hmm.
I also think one other potential use would be, quoting programs, maybe even incorporating like a visualizer where a consumer can basically create whatever they want.
Yeah. And I think AI imagery is going to be interesting to see as well. We do a lot at Grit Blueprint, we do a lot of catalogs, we do a lot of photography. And the reason we're doing that is because no one has images of their products. Every manufacturer I know would love it if you had an extra 100 images to use in catalogs or social or whatever. And once the images get better, I do think there's an easy way to use those where you use your actual product image, without a background, and put it onto something, and then it looks real. People do it with CGI now, but I think it'll look a lot better with AI images. And they're already pretty cool looking. So you can tell sometimes they're AI, but a lot of times it's pretty hard to tell if you don't know what you're looking at.
Yeah, I would agree, and that's kind of what I was alluding to in terms of being able to kind of create something on the
Yeah.
fly for a consumer.
Yeah, and I think people do want to see it. Hundreds of thousands of dollars go into displays, like you say, in a lot of these showrooms. So if something new comes out, you have to rework your whole showroom to be able to put that new display in. What would happen if we had a really great way to make a homeowner be able to see what it would look like on their house? Doesn't mean they won't still want to touch and feel it in life, in real
Yep,
life, but it'll help at least get them a little further down the channel there to know if it's a good fit for them or not.
yep, absolutely.
Well, I want to ask you about growth. I want to see what your opinion is on mistakes that you see dealers, manufacturers, anyone in our industry making that really holds them back from growth. And maybe a story of how you've been able to overcome some of that. I have some in my own career that I think I could share, but I would love to hear your opinion on that. What are we missing and holding ourselves back with in this industry?
So I think really in this industry to stay ahead of all of the competition, you really have to focus on innovation.
Mm.
Similar to AI, there's all sorts of technologies out in the world, and I think as a manufacturer, you can't stand still ever. You always have to be looking for the next best thing.
Yeah.
That would be my advice from a manufacturing standpoint. From a dealer distributor, one of our channel partners, from their perspective, I think one thing that holds them up on growth the most is just providing top-notch customer service.
Mhm.
Sometimes you have channel partners that like to send minor service related items back and put that back on the manufacturer, when there are other channel partners out there that just do whatever they have to do to satisfy their customer. And I really
Right.
think that's what helps, really set those dealers apart from other dealers, is the ones who their customers know they're going to do whatever they have to do to make sure they're taken care of.
Customer experience and how people perceive what you do for them. I think it's the most important thing in the building industry for sure, because you don't want to be competing on price. You don't want to be the person that every single job, gets quoted out and all those things. If you're so good at customer service that, like you said, you just take care of things for people, you make issues go away, and you reduce friction in people's business, that is how you make sure that you're the person they call and they're not even thinking about calling anyone else. And I mean, every person I know wants to be the first choice, but it's how do you actually make that happen? There are a lot of people out there that I think say they want to have great customer service, but what does that really mean? And to me, that's asking your customers, what does that mean to you? Because I think for a small builder that's building 5 or 10 homes a year that are $5 million, that's a very different thing than someone who's building 1,000 homes, that needs a certain type of service. It's asking those clients and then also knowing who you serve best and being brave enough to niche down and say, I'm going to focus on that segment of this business. So if you want to focus on those 10 homes a year at 5 million people, then maybe you can't go out and compete for the 1,000 homes. Sometimes we have to make those choices. I think one of the things that I see that holds them back is trying to do everything for everyone. That's a big problem that I see in most businesses is they want to do commercial, they want to do big residential, they want to do custom residential. They want it all. They want all the business, but they don't have the staff or the ability to do all of it really, really well. So they actually do everything like pretty good instead of just being world class at one or two categories. So that's my advice. And then branding themselves as that, hey, we don't care about this part of the business. We're not trying to do that. We're only focused on this thing that we want to be the best at in the world. And we're going to talk about it every time we can. And then people are going to know us for that. That's where I feel like people miss so much. How do
I,
you how do you brand where that person, that manufacturer, that dealer is the best? What is Kolbe doing to enhance their brand? I'm curious. I know you're at shows. I saw you and met you at IBS this year. What are you guys doing out in the market to market yourselves and brand yourselves?
Well, we do a lot of advertising on a national scale. That's the bulk of our advertising, right? So, as you mentioned, the International Builder Show will be at the National AIA show here at the beginning of June out in Boston. We do those are pretty much the national shows that we
Mhm.
participate in. We do more regional shows as
Yeah.
well, smaller regional shows, but we also offer a co-op program with our channel partners that they can utilize towards advertising in their particular markets as
Yeah.
well. That way, it's kind of a co-branded advertisement in their particular market.
Love it. I think people want to see what we're doing in the industry. Even people, you talk about homeowners wanting to upgrade their windows and doors. How do we get people to do that? People want to see and read and look at beautiful products. And they also want to feel the story around that of, hey, this product is better because of these reasons without getting so technical. We're all product nerds. So we want to talk about glass that has this cool new thing that's so much better than triple glazed and why and all. I don't feel like homeowners really need or want to know that part, but they want to know the problem that it solves and what it's going to help them get and how it's going to be better for them in layman's terms that they can understand. So, how do
Yep.
we make it a great message that's third grade level where people can understand it and want to just scroll past and see that beautiful picture? I think more photography, more videography, more storytelling in our industry is something we need so deeply in any product category, not just windows and doors, but definitely windows and doors that are more expensive. you got to show that story because people aren't going to see the value just by telling them, I don't think.
I would agree. Not to mention, product videos. Social media obviously is a must too.
Yeah.
Everybody's on social media nowadays. So, your Pinterest and LinkedIn and Facebook, those are all platforms that I think are critical for any manufacturer.
Yeah, one thing I'll tell you, a little nerdy statistic that I heard the other day that I thought was crazy is since the last 3 years, Google searches used to be about 84% of all searches. And now this year it's around 18. So that's just in the last 2 years has changed. Where are those other searches coming in? Well, over 5 billion searches per day are on Instagram. Over 2 billion are on Pinterest. And then there's other platforms like Reddit, things like that. So if you're in this industry and you're like, I don't think Instagram or any of these other things are going to matter, you better be thinking about it because this Google world is going to change. And I believe that Google is going to be like the Yellow Pages in a few years. I think it'll be relatively obsolete or totally different than it is today. SEO is changing super rapidly. And those large language models like ChatGPT, Claude, all these places that people are searching, they're going to be important to make sure that when people search, what is the best window? What is the best door? How can I replace my, blah, 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 insert product here? That's going to be done on ChatGPT or some other AI search. So if you're not thinking about this today, Pinterest and Instagram actually do reference on Google. So when people search that, if you put it into those platforms, LinkedIn's the same way. If someone Googles your name, what comes up? That's a question I ask people a lot because we think a lot about company brands, but how much are we thinking about personal brands? Because all of those salespeople that work for you are a beacon for your product line. So if they're posting too, it's just more and more organic reach that you're getting. So I love that you guys are thinking about branding and doing all of that and thinking about Pinterest and all these things that maybe are thought of, but not really done well in our industry. So I love to
Yeah.
see that for sure. Well, I want to leave with a question about the word grit. So I love the word grit because I think it really summarizes our industry pretty well from what I've seen in my years in the industry. In a time in your career, tell me a little story of a time that you had to push through something and how grit has really pushed you in your career to be better.
Thinking of grit, it makes me think of COVID, to be honest with you. So back during COVID, I was our displays manager running that manufacturing facility. And at that time, we had taken on a large customer and we had a huge amount of display orders.
Mm,
And the supply chain issues hit us just like they hit everybody. And at the same time, it was trade show season. So our backlog of work it was what seemed insurmountable.
sure.
Um, we had so much work, obviously getting pressure from our customers, getting pressure from leadership. I probably put just as much pressure on myself. And, we started off with weekly meetings. We ended up doing daily meetings right away in the morning just to make sure we were setting our goals properly. And I think the one thing that I learned the most through that process was just to trust yourself and trust your leadership and the culture you created and in the values that you instilled in your team. And honestly, as I alluded to earlier, we had a really cohesive team. Everybody worked well together. They all had positive attitudes. And when I feel like you have a team like that, no task is too big. What seemed like a very, here in hindsight, I look back, it was a stressful time. There was a lot of work, but we trusted ourselves and we made it through to the other side and we met all of the goals in between that we needed to meet. So I think ultimately that was probably one that comes to mind the most. That's the most recent was COVID, because I have to imagine that the circumstances around COVID put similar folks in situations like that as well.
Yeah, it was the craziest time, I think, in the business that I've ever seen for sure. I was opening two door shops right in the midst of that. Like the week the world shut down, I was literally hiring a team of a lot of people and trying to open a big facility. So it's like, okay, this is already a test. Let's just add a little layer. It's like I don't know if you ever play Nintendo, but like in Mario,
Oh yeah.
let's hop right to the biggest Bowser day one. But I do think it makes you have to have this amount of, grit and tenacity that sometimes, we need that hard test. I think that our failures and the things that we do on a micro level really help us have these macro wins in our life and our careers. And so COVID was definitely one that I think tested all of us, but I felt a lot stronger and able to conquer bigger challenges after I got out of that. So I love that story. Thank you for sharing it with me.
Of course.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on the Grit Blueprint, and I've enjoyed our conversation. I am excited to see you hopefully at the next trade show and see what you guys at Kolbe come out with next. So thank you so much for joining me. And if you want to speak with Nick or connect with him, he is on LinkedIn. And is there any other place we should send people to connect with you and your team?
LinkedIn, or directly to our website as well. Any contact through there would be fine as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And we will talk to you on the next episode of the Grit Blueprint. That's it for this episode of the Grit Blueprint podcast. For more tools, training, and industry content, make sure to subscribe here and follow me on LinkedIn and other social media platforms. To find out more about how Grit Blueprint can help you grow your business, check us out at our website, gritblueprint.com.